if we're honoring ourselves even a little bit the same way we honor other people, we're going to do it. And not until, and I truly think not till then. That's why if we are not practicing honoring ourselves and making our own inner guidance our highest authority and caring about how we feel, we're not going to go get her done. We're just not.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Conscious Marketer Podcast. This is Richard here and joined by Kylie. Hi, Kylie.
Hey.
And we are super excited today to be introducing you to Dr. Darcy Lord. She is a self-love expert and founder of programs that uplift. And we've had the pleasure of working with Darcy in a couple of our programs. And she's a real joy to work with and brings a big light to our community. And she's also an action taker. And so she's been taking our stuff and moving it out in the world. So we thought we'd have her on the podcast to talk a little bit about her topic, self-love, which is kind of intimately related to marketing. The title of this is Self-Love, Your Unlikely Marketing Superpower. Welcome, Darcy,
That's
to
right.
the Conscious Marketer Podcast.
Oh, it's so good to be here. Thank you guys so much. Isn't that a great topic, by the way? And isn't it a great title? It is such an unlikely marketing superpower, but it's true.
Totally.
Well,
it's awesome.
I never self-judge myself. I'm always, I never am critical of myself on podcasts or when I post or on teaching. So, it doesn't apply to me, but let's find out a little bit more about self-love.
Let's do
We
it.
normally start by can you share a little bit of your story? I know you have a PhD and a doctorate. Can you just share a little bit about your path and how this became your life's work?
Yeah. So my mom told me I popped out joyful and I love helping people feel better. And I've always been really good about doing that. So I always knew that was a piece of it. And alcoholic divorced parents. But my mom was always looking for ways to stay sober and healthy. So she would always take myself and my three older sisters to lots and lots of AA meetings when we were little kids. And I'd sit in the back with my little legs crossed. And that's huge, huge joy I hatched a joy for spirituality there because people talked about God and higher power and the universe. And besides those things, mom was always going to counselors. And so I would always, at the end of the session, I'd go, what did they teach you today? And so through the counselors, I got introduced to two of my spiritual teachers, Louise Hay and Wayne Dyer. And Louise Hay talked a lot about how self-love can literally transform your life. And both Louise and Wayne talked about consciousness and the way spirituality works and that the universe is good and that we are inherently, all of us, good and worthy, and the stuff, Richard, that you've been talking about often with Eckhart, which is literally we're conscious co-creators of our life. And a big piece of that is being able to feel how we think we'll feel. And when I learned all that, I had this oh, this is mine to do. So I thought, what better way than to try to follow the path? So I got a counseling degree and I found a doctorate in mind-body connection. How cool is that? And thought, I'll write a book and go be a speaker and change the world. And right before, I know you're kind of laughing, but I really, that was really what there was for me to do. And right before I graduated, the 9/11 terrorist attacks happened. And I had a community of a yoga class and I went to it, and just 2 weeks after the attacks, and I know the world was really, really hurting, but I thought we were little peas in a pod. And I said to the class, hey, I have an idea. Let's all put Osama bin Laden in the middle of the circle and radiate love and light, because then we could change the frequency and the vibration, and we can literally help change the vibration of the planet. And the horrible backlash of huge anger, such anger and confusion, that left me with the thing that I've always hated worse. And I still hate it, but not quite as bad, is being embarrassed and disapproval. And I was humiliated. So I drove home and cried. It was really bad. And I talked to God and the universe and all my angels and teachers. And I was like, that's so mean. Why would you give me this thing to do, but then give me such thin skin? I will never do that again. So for quite a while, I went and taught stress reduction, which is wildly important, but it's not the big base thing. Because what I noticed is that if people aren't honoring themselves and practicing some version of being kind to us, we don't do the stuff, which is the piece about marketing. So it was only a couple of years ago, I found a coach, and I found a conscious marketer who, again, I just am wildly grateful for you guys and your work. And I got uncomfortably nudged and went and put out some things that were really my stuff, which is self-love and also messages that, from within. And 3 months after that, wild, cool things happened that let me leave my day job, which I had wanted to do for 10 years. And now that's what I do. I teach people to practice self-love and trust their inner guidance and act on their soul's calling. So thank you guys so much for your part of that. Is a pretty big deal.
What are the wild things that happen?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. Because of my doctorate, I had a gigantic student loan. It was $173,000 after capitalizing. And I was working for the time in a county government and had been trying to do the student loan forgiveness thing that it just kept going flat and it wasn't happening. And it was maybe going to be 6 years later that it did, and it just got wiped out. So I had $173,000 financial manifestation and some cool things that I want to honor him. But my ex-husband had some things happen that allowed him to be more helpful in my son's life. And there was a hurricane, which was another story. But all three of those things happened in a way. Richard, remember when you said that when you tried to go back to trading and there was this like, I can't, I'm going to die. And I had said I wanted to leave and do this full time and kept not. And those three things all happened. And literally I had this like, oh, I can't not now. I'm terrified and I'm going to have to learn marketing, but I can't not. And so isn't that cool?
There's definitely like these pivot points, and we're teaching a story course now. It sounds true. And Kylie, you just taught that today. There's these choice points where the universe and your own soul kind of won't let you turn your back on your what's yours to do, basically, and so there's always that point. And it was kind of funny because during COVID I went back to trading. I was like, it was like trade again. I hadn't traded in like 17 years, and I initially traded pretty darn well considering I hadn't traded in like 17 years. But it was kind of like there was no like, it was just something I did versus like who I was at that point. So it was like a different feeling the second time.
Oh, cool. So you were able to do it and not feel like you were kind of going squishing up against what you knew was yours.
A little bit, but I was a little bit rusty. And so that's another story for the time. But
oh, goodness.
Well, I think, one of the things that I wanted to bring up a little bit is just, there's this, I think a lot of people have a mastery for their craft, and they'll spend, I think therapists are definitely wired this way, and they put a lot of effort into mastery, and all you have to do is kind of put a new modality in front of them or a course, and they're like, I want to take that. And so and it makes sense, because they have this massive commitment to becoming better at their craft, and it's very noble, but there's a but here.
Yeah.
But there's also the mastery of how do you take what you're learning and have it reach as many people as possible. And if you just have one side, then what happens is, you're accumulating all these techniques, but they're not serving as many people. And so there's also a mastery of the messaging or the marketing or the communications that also has to happen. And
it must, because otherwise you still don't reach anybody. And you've teased us, both you and Kylie have teased us about this. Like, if you're just waiting around for like, build it and they will come, And honestly, that's exactly what I did. And I really, truly was like, hey, if I have a credential and I have a book and I'm a speaker, and honest to God, it's embarrassing, but it's true. I kind of just waited. And like I was going to wait for people to find me because I'm really good and I'm loving and I have great techniques. And so that's why I never got to leave my job because it didn't grow. So this piece about going, it is hard and embarrassing to go, I'm going to put this out. I'm going to do what it takes, let you guys teach to grow an audience. And if we're not honoring who we are, it's too easy to go, I'm embarrassed and I feel little, so I'm just not going to do it. And can I say another thing about that? Because it's huge. Kylie, were you going to say something? Sorry.
No. Go ahead.
Well, this is just so huge. And it's been my metaphor as I'm working with you guys. It's like, think if, Richard, I know you have kids. Kylie, I know all of us, we have really good friends and people that we love. I have a son. And imagine if when those people really needed us, we were like this. Well, I'm a little scared, so I'm not going to help you right now. Or, no, I'm just a little too tired, so I'm not going to. Or, I don't really know how to do it, so I'm not going to. Never would we do it for the people that we love. So if we turn this thing around, it's the thing that can shift our mindset if we practice. And it's a practice. It's not a perfect, but if we practice being kind to us, then when we have those inklings that are the Richard and Kylie's going, go get that piece done today. Go get that piece done. And when it comes up, because it still does, that goes, we're scared, we're tired, please don't make me. If we're honoring ourselves even a little bit the same way we honor other people, we're going to do it. And not until, and I truly think not till then. That's why if we are not practicing honoring ourselves and making our own inner guidance our highest authority and caring about how we feel, we're not going to go get her done. We're just not.
I love it. So how do you feel like the self-love can actually propel people forward? I know you work with a lot of the same people we do, like conscious creators, entrepreneurs, healers, therapists. Like, how does the self-love help them? I know you kind of said it helps motivate. Are there other ways that it helps?
Yeah, absolutely. The first thing is this inner critic thing that just is what squishes all of us down. When there are tools that we can learn to actually not shut up the inner critic, but heal it and help it be used like, hey, thanks, but that's not helpful. So you're going to come on board. And when we have a balance of that, then I can go, I don't think I'm doing things perfectly, but it's okay that I'm not. So the one thing is to really give people tools that help them know that their inner critic it's common humanity, and to really tone that down. That's one of the first ones. And the other one really is to do the thing that gives us the courage to go, I really do want to go do this in the world. I talk to so many people and they go like this, well, I know it's really important to get this work out. And so I'll always go, well, yeah, of course. But does it make your heart sing, or do you really just feel like it's beneficial? And then they smile and they're like, oh no, I love it. I know it's mine to do. And so it gives them permission to want what they want. It gives them permission and tools to really chill out the inner critic. And it gives them the clarity of being able to understand that it's not only not selfish, but when we start going like this, there's nothing more selfish than playing small. And I know that sounds mean, but that's it. So it also gives them, people have said it gives them the permission to not care if other people are going to call them foolish or selfish. So those are some of the ways.
I think permission is a really interesting concept. We should probably do a few podcasts on permission, because it's because often what permission is we're looking outside ourselves for something else.
Right.
And I mean, even a lot of us listening to this call are self-help junkies, and you're self-help junkies if you go into your Amazon and you have like a 25-year history. It's kind of funny because I've forgotten all my addresses, but if I go into Amazon, I can see like 17 addresses where I've lived. But you can see my book order history,
Right.
And normally I'm ordering books if I'm trying to figure something out, but there's like a permission-based thing where you're trying to figure out if you're capable to teach something. You need permission to teach it. Are you if you're sharing a story about somebody, do I have permission to share it? And I think we worked with Hank Wesselman and Jill Kirkendall, and they were, some very wise elders. They've transitioned, but one of their things was always to say that the role of an elder is to validate people coming up and actually to give them permission. But sometimes we don't have the elders to give us permission. We don't, or sometimes this is really interesting. I've seen this happen in a lot of communities. Sometimes the person above doesn't want to give permission, or they don't want the person to go out on their own. So sometimes you just have to say, I don't think we can cuss on this podcast, but you just say, F it. And, I'm going to give myself permission. And then the problem, it takes a lot of courage, because then if you're out of a part of a community or related to somebody, then sometimes you have to kind of go it alone, because you may not have a lot of support, or it could be the opposite. It's hard to say how it goes, but it could also be like, oh, it's about time you went out. You've been talking about that for years. People say that too. So what are your thoughts on permission?
Oh, I think it's awesome. And it's a weird dichotomy, or it's a weird paradox. Here's why. Because I know that when I am doing more practicing of self-love, and audience is, and we're doing that, one of the pieces of self-love is to make your own inner guidance your highest authority. And so in a weird way, then we don't need the permission, because when you talk about elders, there is that place of direct communication with whatever y'all want to call, your big ass self, or, spirit, but a lot of times we keep not listening to that until we find our mentors. And then what people tell me over and over is, it doesn't have to be me, it can be anyone saying, you're actually supposed to honor and love yourself, and you're supposed to have a really happy, amazing life and expand and do your good work out in the world. And that's a thing that is yours to do. And then you watch people go, oh man, it's like I always knew that. But it's almost like opening a door, like, oh my gosh, there's all the information. But that's why our mentors, that's why we love you two so much, because when you say things like that, like, get your butts out there. People need you. And it's okay if other people don't like you. It's okay. That means they're not your people. So the permission, I think it's both. I think that all of us, me included, permission is a beautiful thing from people we love and respect and who resonate with us. And when we care enough about how we feel, I think we're going to go more and more to that inner guidance that says, this is what there is for you to do. And it's not always mushy and nice. Sometimes it goes, let yourself off the hook. And sometimes it goes, it is time for you to leave. And you may be terrified, but you'll feel the rightness in your soul. You'll feel it. That's my take.
Yeah, I really love that. Can you give us a little bit of context for all of this? Like maybe share a success story of somebody that you've worked with, or just specific ways that you see the work that you do really change people.
Oh man, thank you for always asking such good questions. So I just had someone the other day who she is, I don't want to say too much, because she's seeking asylum somewhere from one country to another country. And she has always known that what she wants to do is do music for work, but that was anywhere near her belief system. And somehow she found one of my programs. And I said, I'm just going to invite you to do what you're doing anyway, is just notice what brings you joy. Notice what would make you wildly happy. And even if your head goes, I can't, just kind of take note of that and go through the steps, go through the, conscious processes. And she emailed me not too long ago that she found an internship. So she's allowed to do it. And they've said, and it's making traditional music of her country. And they said, oh, and as soon as you're able to do that, we would love to hire you on. So a whole falling into place of things that should never have happened. And another woman who said for years she's wanted to be a writer, and she is a nurse and does really great work. And she was like, oh, I can't leave and do that. I can't just do that. And I said, well, if you're a writer and if you chose to be kind to yourself, if you did, what kind of things would you do? And she had, said, well, I'd probably go write and maybe be somewhere in a library or a bookstore. And I said, okay, so that's your homework. And she came in a couple of days with these amazing articles. She got one already out to some people, and she said, I actually know that I'm a writer now. I know that I can do that. Another person lost like 15 pounds that they had been trying to lose for a long time. Yeah. Anyway, I could go on, but specific things that matter to us. And all of them said this stuff about practicing self-love. It doesn't come easy. It's unfamiliar. And that's because the, brain's, it's got baseline negativity bias and all sorts of things, but it's important and it's doable.
I definitely want to get into some of the how you share some of the principles of self-love. But before we go there, I have another question, because you said something that intrigued me earlier. And it was that you'd studied the mind-body connection, somatics.
Isn't that amazing?
And I kind of feel like we need to talk about that first, because if you're not connected to your body, which a lot of people kind of are like walking heads, and they're completely disconnected from their body, and then they can't feel anything. And then we expect those people to be compassionate toward others when they can't even feel anything. So I kind of feel like to have self-love, you kind of have to make the connection between the head and the body first. And that's a precursor to connecting to the soul often too. It's just a belief that I have. So it's my hallucination. So
I'm in your hallucination with you. I'm totally
okay there. Can you share a little bit about maybe some of the mind body work you do, just to help ground people into their beingness, so that when you do the self-love work, it actually holds? Because my sense is, if you're trying to think your way to self-love, then you're kind of screwed,
We're certainly not going to get there very far. And it's funny that you said that, because there are people who now, at least, we're talking about self-love like we used to talk about stress reduction. But when it's all in their head, I have a really, really good friend of mine, and she is so unkind to herself, but by God, she knows every technique she could tell you about it, how to do it. So I've always been a dancer. I'm a crazy hip hop dancer, which is hilarious. And a mindfulness teacher. And Kylie, I know you wrote copy for Heart Math. And so I'm certified with them, and I've done that a lot of work for a lot of years with that. But the breathing and the nervous system, and there's some such simple ways to balance the nervous system. And I know you're familiar with them, but a lot of things with breathing, like right now, if all of us, just right now, this very second, just notice where your feet are. Just right now, feel them, and don't do anything with it. And now just taking a nice, long, slow inhale. And exhale all the way out. Oh. And then if you can remember, Richard, you teased around about this a little bit about no, I never have any self-criticism after after a gig or anything. But if all three of us, and we're not going to say them out loud, but everybody think of a thing that you felt just yucky about. And I don't want to know what it is, but do you have a thing over the last maybe 2 weeks? I've already got some from today that you just felt yucky about. You felt off. You felt maybe critical. You felt maybe like, that didn't work. So Kylie, do you have one? Don't tell me what it is, but do you have a remembrance of that?
Absolutely. Yeah, I got a couple things.
Perfect. Richard, do you have one?
Yeah, definitely have one. Definitely have one.
So, and I've got, okay, so now here's all I want you to do, as weird as this is. Take another breath in. Exhale all the way out. And if the yucky of that feeling lived somewhere in your body, even if you think this is weird, take note of where it is. Maybe you're just making it up, but maybe it's in the belly, and maybe it's the heart. Maybe it's in the back of the head. Just take note of that. And then all we're going to do is quietly, I'm going to have you repeat these if you're willing, to that place in your body. Hey, this was a moment of pain or suffering. May I be kind to myself in this moment. May I give myself the compassion and the kindness that I need. Take in another nice deep breath and exhale it out. Oh. And the first principle of even a little bit being able to be kind to us is becoming aware of and caring about how we feel. And that's not just our brain, it's our body, it's our emotions. So just tuning in, there's little subtle ways. Did you guys notice a place in your body, even if you felt like it was an odd thing?
It didn't feel odd, but yeah, I definitely could feel it.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a location in my body too. So
Yeah.
I've done this exercise a few times where it's like they're like, find it in your body, and I'm like, I can't find it in my body. So it's kind of funny, but I found it in my body this time, so that's good.
But you know what's cool is when you go like this, it doesn't even matter. Just pretend. And then it's hilarious because our brain and heart and soul and everything will be like, oh yeah. Anyway, so the mind body thing is really huge. And that's the other piece is honestly, it is so easy for us to be compassionate to other people. But when we are holding ourselves out of the circle of love and compassion, I think that my compassion to other people is a shell of what it really could be when I'm holding myself, because otherwise I just pretty it up with politeness, but I can't really, I think I can't go there with true compassion if I'm holding myself out of the circle. Unfortunately, I really believe that.
So why do you think people resist these processes? Because definitely we're not living in a world where everybody's practicing self-love, as you can tell.
Right. It's such a good question. I always thought like, oh, hey, once we learn a thing, it like happens. And I got really mad when one of my professors said, yes, well, information doesn't always equal transformation. And I was really annoyed. And then I was like, oh my God, that's like life. That's kind of the whole thing. So one piece is, we really do have a negativity bias, and that's a real thing. And I know you've, talked about the brain science, and Richard, you've worked with the stress people a lot, but honestly, the negativity bias is a real thing. And from hundreds of thousands of years ago, if there were 20 really awesome things, but one thing that could hurt you that was negative at all, that's what our brain goes toward. And so it's still the same to this day. So let's say there's like, 50, there's a gazillion good things that we've done. Even right now listening, and all your audience listening, you're awesome out in the world. You do great things. And if there's one or two things that we go, oh, I did that wrong, or it didn't get the reaction that I wanted, or people got off my list, then the brain literally looks at it and gives it more credibility. And there's some easy ways to change that. They're truly with neuroplasticity. We could absolutely change it, but it's one of the reasons. Another one is that people keep telling me over and over is that even though they don't believe it's selfish, they're afraid of looking foolish. And this kind of reaction, like self-love, isn't that a little selfish right now when there's all this stuff going on in the world? And they don't believe that. And your audience, all of us, we go, here, I'll just, by nodding your head, are you better out in the world when your bucket's all filled up, y'all? Do you know what I mean? You know how you go, we're so good out in the world. So no, I don't think people really believe it, but they've said they're afraid of getting, of being called selfish and looking foolish. And then a big thing is it's just a habit to do the self-criticism thing over and over. And we don't have role models. So think of all the stuff you're teaching all the people, all of us with our marketing and stuff. What if we went and we taught that to everybody, and we're teaching self-love to everybody, but every one of us is still holding ourselves out of the circle of compassion? That means nobody's doing it. So the negativity bias, we don't have role models because there's people telling us that we're awesome, but they're beating up on themselves. And we also have it backwards. We kind of thought that if we fix everything on our checklist and we do it, really, we kind of have this like, when I fix all this, when I lose the weight, when I finish the book, when I get my products out there, when I do all these things, then I will have done enough and I'll like me better. And what happens to you guys here? What happens when you check off all your things on your to-do list? What happens?
Make another to-do list for me.
Yeah.
That's right. And so science, the brain science is showing that's a real thing. So instead of going, I'm going to finish everything and then decide I'm going to love myself, you got to practice it first. And that's another piece. We've thought that because self-love doesn't erupt from our emotions, that probably it's not the right thing to do. But it turns out that it's just a choice. It's just a choice. It's not always easy, but it's a choice. You go, even when I'm a dork and I do really messed up things, I can practice honoring the sacredness of my soul and holding myself as precious within my own heart. Yes. So those are the reasons.
I love that self-love is a choice. So, to kind of bring it back around to just marketing as a creator or an entrepreneur or healer or therapist, as they're getting their work out in the world.
Yeah.
How can they make more choices towards self-love? How can they kind of ground that in so that enables them to have less fear and more courage to get their work in the world?
And I'll say that I don't think it's going to give them less fear. I think it's going to give them a tool to go, this is really scary, and they're going to do it anyway. Because again, if I was, raising my son and I was scared and it was a mess, I wasn't just going to go, never mind, I'm not going to do it. Why is that? Because I honor and love that person. So here's 2 techniques that your audience and myself and all of us can use. The one is when you get ready to do the post or the email or create the launch, and you can feel, for me, it's a lot of times just distractions or it feels scary. The one is just to go like this. And it's to ask this question, if I chose to be kind to myself, what do I need right now? And the reason it's really important to say, if I chose to be kind to myself, because it gets through the committee. Like, maybe I'll do it, maybe I won't. If I chose to be kind to myself, what do I need to do right now? Because what happens is, even when I'm scared and it's time for me to write an email and it's time for me to make an offer, that's the loving thing to do. It's the kind thing for me to do. So that's one, is for them to ask that question. And here's the other one. It's really good. If they're getting ready to do a thing, or they feel like they're supposed to, and they're like, oh, I'm just going to do the dishes instead of getting that email out, is you think up somebody that you hold really precious in your heart. And then you go like this. If they were in this situation, what do I wish that they would do? And very rarely, sometimes I would want, I'd let Nick off the hook. But most of the time, even if he's scared, what I wish he'd do is do it imperfectly and mess it up anyway and go forward, because I'm so proud. So if I chose to be kind to myself, what do I need to do right now? And the other one is just, if you know you're distracted, or you're doing I can't do it unless it's perfect. Then again, what do I wish that person that I just hold precious to me, what do I wish they would do? And really make yourself answer the question, and then maybe you'll do it or not. But at least that way, it really opens up, it uncovers, and lets you see real clearly what would be the kindest action to take. And what we know is, then we're getting our stuff out into the world where people need us. People need us to do this, because then we're inspirations to them. It's a really big deal.
Yeah, I love both of those questions, because it's almost like the phrasing makes the question safer, So right. I think probably that's part of the problem. We go online and we don't feel safe there sometimes, And so I think the question moves us into a place of safety, or both of those actually move us into a place of safety and or higher context. I think that second question pulls it to a higher context. That's great. I love it.
Yeah, because that's one of the only things that can kind of move me out of my fear thing, or the littleness thing is, and I don't always follow it, but boy, when I say really, what do I wish he would do? What do I wish Nick would do? Or these people that I love? I'm like, go, do it. Yeah.
Well, I feel like you've given a lot of actionable content, which is great. And hopefully people by now are bought into this idea that just being kind to themselves, or just asking that simple question, what would it be like if I was going to be kind to myself right now? I feel like hopefully we have some buy-in to that and people are willing to try it out. I know you also have so much wisdom. Is there anything we didn't cover that you feel like is really important for people to hear?
No, you guys are beautiful. There's 5 principles of self-love, for self-love practice that can I just say them out loud? So when people go, ooh, yeah. One is, you have to know and care about how you feel. That's so huge. The second one is to make your inner guidance your highest authority, because that's when we really are going to go do these marketing things, that piece right there. The third one is to offer ourselves kind words and kind actions the same way we do to other people, to intentionally do it for us. The fourth one is to practice self-compassion and self-celebration. So when things suck and when we're doing really well, be kind to us in those ways, self-compassion and self-celebration. Then the fifth one, this is important for people who think self-love is going to make them lazy and not do anything. It's to hold ourselves accountable and let ourselves off the hook. And the only way we're going to know that is if we're really checking internally about what there is for us to do. So, yeah.
Those are the five. I love those principles. And I know that's going to be, if people go to your website, what is your website?
Yeah, it's drdarcylord.com.
Okay. And you're developing a few opt-ins and stuff so people can get a little report on those 5 principles.
Yeah, that one's there.
Okay.
That one's there. And it's a lovely PDF. It's really pretty. And a couple of people have gotten it and said, oh, really, really important reminders. And it's been helpful to them. So I'd love if anybody would go and do that. And I think all of us treating ourselves more kindly is literally what's going to help some of us nervous marketers really go, I'm going to go do my work, really, because we're here to uplift the consciousness of the planet. And we can't do that if we hold ourselves little and if we hold ourselves out of this circle of thinking we're beautiful souls. We can't.
Well, it's a really interesting idea. And as you were speaking around the 5 principles, there's a lot of talk about how people project out onto other people, their stuff, and they get triggered, with anger or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it's always like, almost trying to fix the thought pattern versus going the underlying cause. The underlying cause is to heal their lack of self-love of themselves, because it just erupts or it goes outward. But I could see how as you increase your supply of self-love or your ability to access that, then that kindness that you give to yourself literally lays the foundation so that as you're sending an email or making a vulnerable post or launching something that's completely new and a little scary to you, you can actually do it. So it's not so much like one swoop where you have to be like, okay, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to run into the battle. It's more like you literally have to do practices like you just explained so that it becomes your new state of being. And then from the new state of being, then why wouldn't you get your work out in the world and help more people, Yes. In fact, you probably, as you do that, you look back and you go, why the heck did I wait so long? And really, it's not that. It's really you were getting ready and that you hadn't internalized the internal emotional feeling structure so that you can feel safe and supported in doing it. And like you said, it's a choice, right?
Yeah, it's a choice. And what you just said is the perfect piece about self-compassion. Because it's always just a practice, and there are stuff we're going to mess up all the time. And so to look at me and go, what took me so long? I can do that. It's just not that it's helpful. It's not helpful to get my stuff out there, but to go, you were scared. And I know for sure you were doing the best you could. And it was a time of pain. And now let's move forward. Come on. And the practice piece, it's a practice. It's a practice, little bits. What's one thing you could do that's kind to you today? One thing in your body and in your self-talk and in your working out and in the way you're talking to other people and talking to yourself, like 1 or 2 little things that you can do. And I promise anybody listen to this awesome podcast, I know for sure that one of the kind of things you could do is move on getting some of the work out. 1 social post, 1 email, 1 YouTube video, anything.
Yeah.
And that's
thanks
cool.
Thanks for supporting our work too, Darcy. Well, if you want to find more about Darcy's work, you can go to drdarcylord.com and you can get all the show notes and the links to her website and other social profiles. If you go to consciousmarketer.com/podcast, And if you want to do a kind act to us, you can go on to iTunes and leave a review. I think we have like, I don't know, 40 or 50 reviews, and the iTunes really likes reviews. So if you've gotten something out of this, go there, leave us a short review. It doesn't have to be very, very long. We would greatly appreciate that.
Let's everybody who's listening to this go so that they can have 150 reviews within the next like month. Let's do that for them.
Thank you.
That's a good manifestation for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys so much. I so appreciate. I honestly just love you both in such a big, huge way. I love your gracious, beautiful hearts. I love your huge competence. And I love that even though you both pretend like you're not, or you say you're not, you are two of my favorite spiritual teachers. And you help me get my work out in the world. I appreciate you. Thank you.
You're the best. Thank you so much for saying all of that. We appreciate you. It's an honor to have you on today.
Yeah, thanks, Darcy, and thanks all the listeners for watching, or if you're listening on iTunes. And we'll see you on the next episode. Bye for now.